Welcome to another edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast, a podcast with three Sunday League playing football friends, united for a love of Chelsea Football Club. And what a week we actually get to discuss a Chelsea victory, chaps. I think it's the first victory in, I want to say, months. Is the last time we won a game was against Bournemouth? I'm not talking, friendlies don't count. Is that the last game we won?
Oh, that is a quiz. I think it was against Dortmund. Dortmund was the last. No, Bournemouth. Yeah, Bournemouth.
Home game was Bournemouth.
Yeah.
No, it was away because it was the only game that Frank Lampard won in his tenure. Yeah, but you know, we can celebrate a win. We'll dive a little bit deeper into this preview. But chaps, how have you been, Charlie? Tem, are you keeping well?
I'm keeping very well. I think it was one of those performances that we needed. I said last week, if we can go, win that one convincingly, and we can go on a bit of a roll. We've got a nice run of fixtures now, and it looks pretty good. So I'm feeling pretty good about everything. What about you, Tim? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think I had an easy weekend for once, not had to stress about Chelsea. So yeah, everything good.
Tremendous. And it was early doors. I think it was quite useful that we had the Friday. It was a bit weird that we weren't playing on a Saturday and a Sunday. I'm not going to lie. We are live on TKS TV and YouTube. Make sure if you have the possibility to do so. If you're finding us here and you haven't subscribed to us, we're trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of August. I think this is probably the last time, if you're seeing this, is the opportunity to do so. Really help us get our own URL link. That'd be great. So let's dive straight into it. Chelsea 3, Luton 0. The streak is ended. It's like when Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker at WrestleMania 30. We finally won a game, and do you know what? We looked somewhat convincing, didn't we?
I would say so. I think the system seems to be consistent. What I like about it so far with Pochettino is that the lineup looks consistent. There isn't too many changes. People seem to know vaguely what they're doing, and it looked pretty good. So I was pretty positive about the whole thing. There was a lot of positives, to be honest. Gusto, I would say, was a massive positive. Jackson, a huge positive, which I've been saying for a long time. But obviously, the guy who steals the show is Raheem Sterling. An incredible performance by him. Back to his old gold, as they would say. I thought it was an absolutely excellent performance by him. What do you reckon, Tim? What do you think on the performance?
Yeah, I think the performance was the least of actually my worries. It was more about the scoreline, I think. I thought the performance was there the first two games. I just don't think we came out with the points that we needed. So for me, it was more about just getting the ball in the back of the net. I think, even against West Ham, we looked much of the better team in the first half. Obviously, against Liverpool, I think we were the better team overall, but we just didn't manage to get the result. And in the Premier League, that's what you need at the end of the day. It's not about your performance or how well you do over 90 minutes. You need to get those goals, and it's something I've stressed about. So it was good to see, especially Raheem Sterling, with his fantastic performance to actually, get the reward he deserves, and Nicolas Jackson, I'm sure we'll talk about momentarily. But yeah, I was pretty pleased. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? The fact is, I think for the last three games, we've been the strongest team in each of the games we've played. Admittedly, we didn't get the 3 points against West Ham. I think West Ham played phenomenally on the counter attack, and we our heads dropped once West Ham lost their player for some bizarre reason. But we always maintained that we had the best football, and I think on Friday, I think we previewed it in the sense of like this is a must-win game. We needed to win that game against Luton, against newly promoted opposition. They've spent £30 million since 1992 on players. We've spent £1 billion in the last two seasons. It's, if we didn't get a result in that game, it would have been alarm bells already for, okay, well, why isn't Pochettino managed to get a tune out these players just yet? And I don't know if you compare it to where we were last season. I think last season's games, I don't know if you guys noticed a trend as we started off very, very slowly. In the second half, we built back into it, and then we just couldn't seem to get the ball in the net. Just couldn't seem to get the ball in the net in that second bit, and then we just all went downhill in the second half. But it looked like we controlled we controlled that game. We really, really did. Other than I think maybe just a little bit in the second half, the first 15 minutes or so, there was a little bit of shakiness amongst the back line, but it's just so pleasing to see Pochettino's work coming to fruition and us getting 3 points, because we need to get points on the board this early in the season. We do have a tough run when it comes into October, November, and I think the main man that we do need to talk about is Raheem Sterling. I mean, Raheem Sterling, I think there was calls from some people within the fan base to say he doesn't kind of fit the identity of Chelsea at the moment, like where we were last summer to where we are now this summer, and he is being absolutely phenomenal. He's looking like the player that he was for Liverpool in his early days, for Manchester City when he's playing with Pep Guardiola. And he's looking like money. He's looking like that £60 million player that we pay for. And I haven't seen dribbling. I think I saw in the West Ham game, the dribbling, the weaving in and out against those defenders, and him having the ability to pick the ball up and run at players. That's what's going to break teams down like Luton. We need to have players like that that are actually going to run at people. And just Raheem Sterling is just looking absolutely fantastic. He's gone straight to the Fantasy Premier League team, let me tell you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's something he mentioned himself, that he's actually getting the chance to run at players instead of receiving the ball back to goal. So I think with the way Pochettino's got him playing is more on the front foot. You've seen him; he's given him a bit more license to maybe mess up a little. Like he may not take a player on and beat him every time, but he's got that sort of tenacity to keep going again and again, and try again and again. I think maybe 5 out of 9 times he does get past his player. He's a bit frustrating at times, but we're seeing the more consistent side of Raheem Sterling. I'd just like to maybe see that left-hand side a bit more balanced, where we're a threat from both sides, because we do look much like last season, a one-sided team where all the attacks were coming down that right side when James was fit, and I can't remember who was our right winger at the time. I think it was Sterling, wasn't it?
Sterling was playing off the left, I think, and then on the right side was Madueke in the second part of the season, and they just rotated.
We had so many. It was a tinker season. Let's face it, it was a tinker season. That's one of the things that I'd like to say that's a real positive about the start of this season. Yes, okay, we've beaten Luton. It's nothing to shout about too much. We drew with Liverpool, and we had a bad result against West Ham. But what I do like about it is that we're playing the same system every single week. We're playing roughly the same players, one in, one out. It's not like last season. It was like every time. I remember every time, Tim. I remember this. And Tom, the team sheet would come out, wouldn't it? And you'd look at those 11 players and you go, what is going on? Where's the system? It looks now like there's some sort of a bit of a standard system that we're playing by, and it's a bit of a one in, one out system as well, which I quite like. So I think that's a real positive. Sterling was excellent. Jackson, God, he's unbelievable. And I've said that all over the last few weeks. I think he's a real talent, that guy. I thought it was a really, really positive performance.
He's looking very. Nicolas Jackson's looking like he's kind of flown under the radar in terms of, bringing people in. It's not the big name signing that we thought. Famously he failed a medical at Bournemouth in January, so he was going to join Bournemouth in January time, and now he's just come to us. But he's kind of slotted in. He looks at home at Stamford Bridge, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think he sort of set up the precedent of the game. He really pressed their centre backs for the majority of the game. You saw him maybe get tired towards the end. Maybe it was because of the amount of hard work he actually did that game, and he helped Sterling get his goal. He tried to link up with Chilwell, and he could as well. So, in the sense, I kind of feel sorry for the guy because he put in such a good shift, and he thoroughly deserved it. I don't know if you guys remember when Torres went through the dry patch, and you saw him like completely tire himself out, running down, chasing every ball, trying his best to score a goal. And it was just pleasing to see a striker actually get the goal after their much hard needed work. But I think he needs a lot of help because we're going to definitely need someone like him for a majority of the season. And that's just my worry. Like, how much do we really rely on Jackson this season without a backup? And maybe does Broja come in to help with that? But
Well, I think the injuries. I think with Broja, I think he's due to be back in the squad and like available for selection, so on the bench within the next fortnight or so. So we have that option on the bench to play somebody of a different role in terms of Broja. I don't know about you, Charlie, but I don't think we're going to bring in a striker in this window. I really don't. I don't think we're bringing out and out number 9 in. I think we are rumoured for Michael Elise, so I'm fairly certain that we're going to try and get somebody on that right side or somebody that can play in that number 10 type role whilst Nkuku's injured. But I don't think we're going to go for a number 9. Do we need a number 9?
At the moment, no, of course. Everything's going okay at the moment. We've got a bit of momentum. However, Jackson will not play 38 games this season. That's a fact. He will get injured at some point. And other players as well will get injured, and that will affect everything. So, yes, we do need a number 9, in my opinion. I think Ivan Toney. I've always said it. It looks like he's available in January. I'd take him all day long. He looks like a very good interchange with Jackson. He could probably play with Jackson or interchange. They're very similar players, in my opinion. And I think he's the perfect guy.
Have either of you listened to or watched his Dover CEO podcast that he did?
No.
He kind of basically, it's fascinating. It's a good insight. It's the first time he's spoken since his betting ban has been come to fruition. And I was like, when I was speaking to you both last season, I thought, yeah, Ivan Toney. Now I'm not so sure on the basis of that interview. I think again, this could just be the way it's edited. I don't know. They might have chopped and changed or whatever. But I think there was a bit of a negative ego. Like he doesn't seem to think he doesn't seem to like take ownership of what he's done, if that makes sense. Like he doesn't understand fully as to why he's banned for this. And I don't think he should be banned for that period of time. I think, the betting side of things in football, the sponsorship side of football is ridiculous. And, I'm glad that it's going to be not a part of football. I think in the next couple of seasons, I think it's going to get banned. So they can't advertise sports betting on football shirts. And I think maybe even advertisements as well.
I think that's next year that's due to come in about the thing. Yeah.
But
I think that's isn't that just in the Football League? Not the
Premier League.
Premier League, yeah. Because we wanted to do that stake sponsorship, and we could only do it for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and when I was watching the podcast, it just the way that I see the squad at the moment. There's a lot of we've got like Charlie. You were quite big on mercenary type players and getting those mercenary type players out of the club. And I'm not saying Ivan Toney is a mercenary because he's playing for Brentford. He's not going to these kind of clubs. He's already spoken about how he wants to join Liverpool eventually as well. So that's another one that's kind of got a tick against us. On the podcast, he mentioned how he does want to join Liverpool at some stage in his life. He grew up a Liverpool fan. I know in professional football, it's not the be all end all. Players change allegiances. Harry Kane famously grew up an Arsenal fan. But based on that kind of information, I appreciate I've kind of only given you a small snippet of the interview, and I do recommend spending your time listening to it when you get the opportunity to do so. But I don't think his mentality fits the way that the club is leaning towards at the moment with the younger style of players. Like I appreciate Sterling's older, but I don't see that Sterling and Toney have that. They don't have a similar mentality in that scenario. Like Toney, I think could be maybe a negative impact on the dressing room potentially. I appreciate you two haven't watched the interview, so it'd be difficult to do so, but I thoroughly recommend it. But I don't know. I really don't know who we bring in as that number 9 position. I think maybe bringing in Ivan Toney now would potentially rock the boat with what we have too much. And I think maybe Nicolas Jackson and Broja maybe for the season and wait for Nkunku to come back because, he can play in that number 9 position. And if a rumour is to believe, like what Temba mentioned prior to starting the podcast, with the number 10 or a right-sided midfielder coming into position, that does mean it gives Nkunku license to play as a number 9 if need be. So, I appreciate I've just spoken solidly for a good 2 minutes there, so I do apologise. Let's go back to the actual game itself. So, a player that we touched upon, Charlie, was Malo Gusto. And Malo Gusto, 2 assists. He's already got more assists in the Premier League than Mason Mount has in the past 2 seasons in that one game alone. Absolutely smashing it, Malo Gusto. After a kind of rocky start in his first game against West Ham. Was it West Ham in his first game? He looked a bit shaky.
He came on against Liverpool, didn't he? He came on against Liverpool because
Liverpool
James came
looked a bit
out.
shaky.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
looked a bit shaky against Liverpool. But he looks solid. Like I know, Tem, you mentioned that he's defensively very good, but were you aware of his attacking prowess?
Yeah, so he's mainly known for actually his attacking prowess, but the one downside I saw Leon fans were actually saying he's very lazy at tracking back, often loses his man. But I've seen a bit of a recovery pace about him. He's got a last-ditch tackle in him. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing long term, because you do want your fullbacks to sort of be tracking their man. So I can maybe see that a little bit in his game where he may lose his man to begin with and then, recovers back. But against Benrahma, he did a very good recovery tackle. And I think against Luton as well, he did quite a few good tackle, good interceptions and reads. So I've been impressed with him. I don't know about you, Charlie, but yeah, I think he looks good so far.
I think we've always needed a replacement for Reece James. Not a replacement. That's probably the wrong word, but a backup at
understudy.
least.
Understudy.
Yeah, an understudy, a backup who's prepared to do that job. Reece James, obviously over the years has been notoriously injured most of the time, and yet again this season he has. This Gusto character comes in. It looks like he's really fired up and looks like he's worth the metal. So I think brilliant. And obviously Reece James is the number 1. Everyone knows that. But it's nice to know that there's someone else in the background. And I think he had an absolutely brilliant game against Luton. Some of the things I saw was absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the midfield, actually? I wanted to ask.
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I thought Enzo looked really, in my opinion, looked like the Enzo, if that makes sense, that I want to see. I thought Gallagher had a fairly good game, as far as I saw. And I thought Caicedo didn't start too well, but I think he grew into it and played the ball simple. And that over time gave Enzo the confidence. Let's hope long term that's how it progresses. It's going to take a while, I think, for that midfield trio, whatever it might be. Obviously, Lavia is still around. There's other players knocking around on the injury beds who we can bring in. But it looks pretty good. What do you reckon, Tim?
Go on, Tom. I'll give it to you first.
I think the signing of it feels good knowing that we've signed the players in terms of Moises Caicedo, which is going to free up the ability for Enzo Fernandez, because he isn't that type of player. He's not the player that's going to sit deep, protect the back line. And I think he was misused last year, but I think that's through no fault of his own. I think that's just what he was asked to do. And I think that might have been the reason why Charlie last season, you're like, where are we spending this money? Like, what has it gone on? Like, I don't understand what he's doing. I think having that kind of defensive midfielder that kind of takes on that responsibility of that kind of protection of the back line, allowing him to bomb forward if need be, is great. And the energy of Gallagher as well. Gallagher, I think, has been, I'm not going to say outstanding, incredible, because I think that would be disingenuous, but he's been very good in a position that he's not particularly used to. Yeah. It's very hard to ignore. He's like, there's been some, I think last season I mentioned a lot of times that sometimes he just runs around and you don't really know what he's doing. But this time he's looking like he's actually got direction, doesn't he, Tem? He's looking like he's got a purpose.
Yeah, I agree.
Running running to, influence the game.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think he's the one I'm actually kind of worried for. But at the same time, Pochettino sees something in him. He's kept him in the team, so hopefully he stays. In terms of, you never know when you'll need someone like that. I've always said it. He shouldn't be a starter at Chelsea, in my opinion, but he's good enough to keep in the squad. He clearly has a lot of energy and effort, and that's sometimes what you need in training. You know, you famously saw with Mourinho saying about Azpilicueta, his comments saying Azpilicueta is the hardest trainer 24/7. If you have 11 Azpilicuetas, you win the Champions League. And I don't think that highly of Conor Gallagher, but in the same term, you kind of know what he brings, you know, every game, every training session. And it's probably why Southgate took him to the World Cup or Euros, was it? I can't remember if it was
World Cup
or Euros. World Cup, but he may not have played a game, but he's there because of that reason. You know, he brings the intensity. You know what you get with Conor Gallagher. He's going to be there no matter what, or he's going to show 200% at times. He may not be the best football player, but he'll give you that, and sometimes that's enough to win games or get you out of a result.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. You know, this is the We Talk Chelsea podcast, but Charlie, I think we're all big proponents for a certain player staying, but are we missing Mason Mount?
Not at all.
As an option?
I don't think so, to be honest. It's weird because I was the biggest advocate for wanting him to stay, but I think with the squad that we've got, I don't think we need him at the moment. I really don't. I think we've got enough around. I think if you look at what he's done at Man United, I don't think so. Same with Kai Havertz. So it sounds stupid, but at the moment, the business that I was actually, you know, if you watch his podcast, 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, I was criticizing selling Kai Havertz and Mason Mount. I'm probably the biggest advocate at the moment of selling those two. I think we're actually a better team without them. You know, at the moment, you know.
Tem, you made an exasperated sigh there. Is that through just long term, or, you know, I want to take kind of his Man United performances aside, just because, you know, he hasn't hit the ground running. It's irrelevant to where he is in the team at the moment. But you made a sigh there. Do you feel that, you know, it would have been beneficial to have a player like that in the squad, especially when you've got kind of Gallagher kind of maybe somewhat doing that role that he was doing off the ball?
In the long term, I think it probably is beneficial for Chelsea to get rid of Mason Mount. It's just that left-hand side, and I don't think it's really down to Mason Mount itself. It's kind of Pochettino. I don't like him experimenting with Chilwell as a winger. I really don't think that works, and I don't see how long it can fly for, because I know people like to say, oh, Chilwell scores goals, he's great attacking, but he comes in from a deep position where he needs to have space to attack. He's not good on the quick turn or quick receiving the ball. And anyone who's played football will tell you left wing and left back, two different positions, completely different positions. And where you receive the ball certainly is a different prospect of the game. When you receive a ball from a deep position, or when you're running onto a ball, it's completely different than, you know, you being 1v1 with the last defender. It's a completely different game, and I don't think that suits Chilwell. I know he likes to get forward, but where he receives the passes and what he has to do when he receives the passes is completely different as a winger than a left back. So I hope that kind of explains what I mean.
But where would you play at 10? Where would you play Chilwell? How would you fix that? You know, Chilwell's obviously really talented. You know, obviously part of the squad. How would you fix that?
Yeah, I think problem is he's not great defensively. So you need a winger as well who's going to possibly track back and help him. And I don't think Pochettino trusts Mudryk, if I'm honest. He hasn't really played him that many games or started him. I don't, even in preseason. I think he came off the bench when he scored that goal. I'm not sure if he started. I can't remember.
It's pre-season.
Yeah, pre-season. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, when we won about 5-0 or something.
Yeah, I think maybe he only started 1 or 2 games, and even so, I think that's when we didn't have Madueke or what was the other winger that was there. I think Maatsen started ahead of him. It was Maatsen and Kunku and Sterling at times. Yeah, so I don't know. It is a bit of a weird enigma. Whereas maybe you do play Matson and Chilwell together because they're both left backs in that sense, where one can cover the other. But I don't see Chilwell as being a tight, close control player. Very good at link up. I don't think he's that type of player. He's a player you need to play him a ball over the top or something, and he'll run onto it and smash it.
Here's a question for you both: is Chilwell the new Marcus Alonso?
Oh yeah, they're very similar players. I just think Alonso's probably got better ball striking ability, a lot slower to get back. But otherwise, they're pretty much almost the same player. I think I don't see many differences in their game apart from speed.
But the way that you're talking, we're very, very top heavy then on the right, aren't we? I mean, when you look at it, we're extremely top heavy on the right because you've got Colwill trying to look after the back, the
left side,
gaps, the gaps in the back there, and obviously Sterling's on the right as well. So we're completely lopsided at the moment. And I suppose that's going to be the biggest thing, isn't it? We're going to be very easy to penetrate from that side, and also very easy to defend against on the other side, I suppose.
Yeah.
Let's face it, Luton Town are probably, let's say, the worst team, I would say, in the Premier League this season on paper. So it's to beat them 3-0, it's brilliant, but coming up against better opposition, they are going to work us out very quickly.
Yeah, and can I just add to that as well? Like, you mentioned about us defending out wide. I don't think Cole or Disasi are very good at defending wide spaces. I don't think there are many centre backs that like to defend in wide spaces anyway. But particularly them two, they do not look comfortable, and I think Gusto sometimes was quite high up, and Thiago Silva, he's not quite the quickest to get across, from right to left. So it kind of leaves us a bit stretched when we're defending transitions, and like I say, Colwell doesn't look comfortable in an out wide position. So how do we negate that problem? Does Caicedo maybe have to drop it right back at certain times, or again that opens up on the field? So it's a bit of an enigma for me. I don't know what's the perfect solution to solve that.
I think what we have to factor in, chaps, is they've played that back three, played together. That's the most consistent back three that I've seen in the Chelsea team in games, months, and I think they're still getting used to how each other's going to play. I'm fairly certain we'll get onto the preview in terms of the games coming up. We've got 2 games this week that we need to preview, but I think it will come with time. Like Disasi, he's kind of looked a little bit shaky in some games, but you can see that there is a player there. It's the same for Colwill. Is he as strong yet? No, but we've got to factor in the fact that these two are, Disasi's older. I think it's like 24, I think. 25. But then Cole, 25. So he's an older player. He's probably got a bit more experience, but I don't think he's played as part of a back three at Monaco. I think he was part of a 2 initially with Badiashile. So maybe that's just kind of like growing pains in that scenario. And let's face it, you're next to the best centre back in the last 10 years in Thiago Silva. So hopefully there's going to be some sort of attrition, and he's going to pick that up in time, and it'd be interesting to see. But I think Cole will, he's going to get better. He just will. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Cole will start against Wimbledon as well, just to kind of keep that minutes up as repetition in that position. Charlie?
I still think he's really good on the ball, but I think obviously defensively he's still got to learn. In terms of his ball play, I think he's absolutely excellent. I thought he was brilliant on Friday. Maybe I watched a different game, but I thought he was absolutely brilliant on Friday in terms of his ball play.
Yeah, I think it. Who are we talking about, Disasi or Colwell here?
Colwell.
Colwell.
Yeah, so I think Colwell, sort of that centre back era of like Christensen. Very good on the ball, neat and tidy, can read an interception very well, but it's more about can he get physical. And obviously against Antonio, I think many players will struggle, but yet to see, the rough side of Colwell. Can he, take an attacker out, out strengthen other wingers or strikers off the ball, and look, be a dominant centre back. I think that's the next sort of growing phase he needs to do, because I'm pretty sure he played a full season with Huddersfield, if I'm not mistaken, and then played only about 13, 14 games for Brighton, which I don't think is a ton of experience. But now he's been thrown right in the deep end in this Chelsea team. He needs to step up, especially, I think we all expect Thiago Silva not to be here next season. So this is his chance to pretty much cement himself as a starter for Chelsea and see who his partner is, whether that's Badiashile or whether that's
Fofana,
Disasi or Fofana. Yeah, exactly. And I completely forgot about him as well. So,
Chalobah. We've got so many. That's what I mean.
Let me put this to you. I mean, obviously, we do work usually in a 3. I think we fully expected in the last few games to play in a 4-2-3-1. It could still change for it as a 3, but Silva is very much likely to be his last season. I can't see him extending his contract longer than the end of the season. But if he does, great. If he doesn't, it is what it is. Who, in your opinion, of our centre backs will take over that Thiago Silva kind of linchpin role in the defence?
I think if he's fit, I think it's Fofana. I think he's the most talented, but it remains to be seen if he's going to be fit. And out of the other ones, it is Colwell. Colwell's the most naturally talented one out of them all, in my opinion, in terms of natural talent. He's not there yet, but in terms of natural talent, he's there. He's got more about him than Chalobah, for example. You can see there's more potential there than Chalobah, as an example. Badiashile's a great player, but in my opinion, he's probably the one long term. Who's going to do that job? What do you reckon?
Yeah,
anyone else?
Dale's saying I do wonder if that's just getting experience next to Silva, slowly phase in Silva out, and eventually go into the back 4. I wonder if it's when James come back, you slowly change to a 4 across time. You're shaking your head there, Tim.
Yeah, this is something I want to actually say. It is a 4 at the moment. That's the thing. Where's everyone getting that this is a 3 at the back?
True. Yeah.
It is actually a 4 at the back. We are playing Disasi, Silva, Colwell, and Gusto. It's just because we're so one-sided when we attack. It looks like we're playing a back 3, but we actually are playing a back 4. Chilwell is a winger. He's not a left back. So that's why it looks so bad. And I think Colwell, because he's a centre-back, maybe he inverts a bit too much. He doesn't really adventure forward, sort of like how we used to be under Mourinho. I don't know if you guys remember when Azpilicueta was left-back. He used to really be static as a left-back and never come forward, whereas the right-hand side, Ivanovic, you'd go up and down. And it kind of makes us a lopsided team, but obviously at the time we had Eden Hazard as one of the best wingers in world football, so he could take 2 or 3 players on by himself, and like I say, we leave ourselves in a dangerous position being such a one-sided team. So it'll be interesting to see if we do bring in a winger or an attacker who takes up that left-hand side, and what happens with Chilwell or Colwell himself. Does he move to a centre-back and it become Silva and Colwell, or does maybe Colwell drop out the team and it's Disasi and Silva?
I think you need to protect Silva as much as you possibly can across the course of the season. Yes, we've got to have theoretically less games in terms of Europe, so you might see partnerships of Disasi, Colwell, and Badiashile and Colwell, but I'm fairly certain the main person that will be in that 2, if it does go to that 2 situation, 2 centre-backs it'd be, I think Levi Colwell is going to be the one that sticks there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was something in his contract that say, hey, I'm only going to sign this big sod-off deal if you actually guarantee me minutes. So it'd be interesting to see. I want to talk, so there's 2 games to preview, so we need to move swiftly forward onto this one. So we need to look forward to our next game. Chelsea play AFC Wimbledon in the second round of the English Football League Cup, the EFL Cup, or the Worthington Cup, as Charlie still calls it.
Carling Cup, the Worthington Cup.
I think is it the Carabao still? They kept that for the while. Still the Carabao. Oh, it could be anything. Anyway, but Chelsea play Wimbledon in the Milk Cup, and Charlie, you were looking into AFC Wimbledon, kind of unknown opposition for you. Like, what kind of digging, what kind of fact finding have you found? Is
Well,
there
I mean,
cause of concern?
well, it's a funny one because I'm from Wimbledon myself, so I know I'm very familiar with the club, familiar with the area. They recently got relegated to League Two about 2 years ago. So they're just to put that in perspective, they're in the they're in the fourth bracket of English football. So this should pose no threat, especially at home. But we never know. Obviously, it's a very local derby, if you like. It's about 7 miles away from Stamford Bridge. They've got a pretty good striker called Ali Al Hamadi, who's an Iraqi striker. He moved to the UK actually when he was 1 year old. He's their sort of top scorer. He's their go-to guy. But realistically, this is going to be a game where there will be a lot of tinkering. And I suppose the biggest question is to you guys that I would say is, who do you want to see play in this game? Who do you want to see have minutes? And I'll throw that to Tim.
Yeah. Go on, Tom. I think it should
Go right ahead. Oh, I was basically had my link to you to be there, but Charlie did it for me. Yeah, I was going to say, are we going to see, like we quite like having those, that, you know, similar 1 in 1 out kind of structured 11, but are we going to see wholesale changes, do you think, Tim?
I actually don't think so. I think there'll only be a few changes. I think I'm not sure if Petrovic is fit. If he is, maybe we might see him start, or maybe him given some minutes.
I think the season's still ongoing for New England Revolution. So yeah, I think he would be match fit. I can't personally see him start. I don't think he will. Not this game. Not yet, anyway.
Who knows? Apart from that, because of the amount of injuries we have, how can we really change the team? That's my only concern. I think we'll probably see a lot of the first team players play, and maybe we'll see Ian Matson play, or maybe as a winger, maybe as a left back. Not quite sure. Will we see Uguachukwu get a start? Possibly as well. Maybe Caicedo might move to right back, give Gusto a bit of a rest. Could we see Lavia actually get a start in the team? I know Pochettino mentioned he's still a few weeks away from match fitness. Mudryk would he be back, or maybe Madueke? Could he get a start?
I think Mudryk and Madueke. I don't think Madueke is ready to start. Mudryk, I don't think so either. I think both of them will probably make an appearance from the bench. I think we'll definitely see Sterling drop out. I think to protect Sterling for Forest. Silva will drop out as well. I think we'll see that, and I think we might see
Chilwell.
Chilwell for Matson, and I think centre backs. I think he could go to a 4-2-3-1 for this game, like an actual proper established 4-2-3-1 with only 2 centre backs playing with Disasi and Levi Colwell. I think he might try and trial it, and I think he might play Gusto still. At left back, I think he will go with Maitson. But it's who do you put in that kind of... I think Gallagher potentially will start as well, and I think Caicedo will too. I think Enzo will start it. And I do believe... Or maybe Uguachukwu. I'd like to see Uguachukwu start, because I just want to see more from him, because he's only really been given, like, the American term is garbage minutes. You know, he's been thrown on for 4 minutes to kind of waste time. But Romeo Lavia, like, potentially on the bench as well. But I think these players... this is the thing. I can't see Cucurella starting if rumours to be believed. What I'll say so Cucurella potentially to join Manchester United on loan. It was something I was going to talk about, but Cucurella didn't have the best season, looked lost the majority of the time, but out of nowhere, looking like Cucurella potentially might be joining Manchester United on loan. Do you think that's going to be, having lost Lewis Hall, we've got Maitson as a left back now. Do you think Cucurella to join United, Charlie, is a good move for all parties?
As long as we've got cover, yeah. I mean, I don't think. I mean, from what we saw last year, I'm just really concerned about his. concerned about his ability, in my opinion. But obviously, as long as we've got cover, it's okay. If we don't have cover, obviously, it's better than nothing, you know. But at the same time, I would say, based upon last season's performances, I just didn't find him that convincing. But you know.
Yeah, Tem, do you think it's a good move for all parties? Cucurella potentially getting out of West London, going to a different club where there's no real pressure on him. He's going to get guaranteed minutes every single week because Brandon Williams is on loan to Ipswich, I believe, and Luke Shaw's potentially out for 3 months. You know, no interest in recalling, and Malaysia is out injured as well, so he's going to get guaranteed minutes in Manchester. Do you think that's a good move for him?
Potentially, yeah. I wouldn't subscribe to that. There's no pressure playing for Man United. They're probably the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in the world. But
yeah, but there's no pressure. What I mean by that is there's no pressure on him to if he has a shit show, then you know he does have a contract to go back to Chelsea. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. In that sense, I definitely agree. But I think. Would I take that move if I were him? I suppose if he is third choice left back, which it seems, well, Colwell seems the first choice left back at the moment, and maybe Chilwell and Matson's the second choice. So he's not even in that consideration from the looks of things, because I don't think he's even played a minute so far, has he?
No, he's just sitting on the bench laughing.
Yeah,
that's why whenever they pan to him, he's just sitting there laughing. So no. I just think he's. I don't think he wants to be there anyway. So I think just release him, get him out. You know, that's my opinion.
I don't know. From social media posts, he looks quite, and I suppose you can't read too much in it, but at the same time you can, because you see a lot of the players seem to post a lot with Cucurella. He seems a bit of a joker, and
come on, we're not this. Really, is that what we? So we're paying him all this money for him to?
No. I'm not
joker.
saying that. No. I'm just saying, like, he probably is friends with a lot of the players now, because if you see, we do have quite a few Spanish speaking players. Nicolas Jackson was calling him one of his best friends or something, saying Cucurella is really good, and Enzo and all that. So I think he probably does have a good relationship. You know, we saw it last season with Hakim Ziyech. How many friends was he with? Callum Hudson-Odoi, Lukaku, Trevor Chalobah, and all that.
All the ones who left. It sounds stupid, but he's friends with all the people who were on their way out anyway. So they were probably all talking together and, you know, thick as thieves, telling about which agent has done this, that, and the other. Right?
Yes.
Do we necessarily want these people around the dressing room? I don't know. I mean, it's Cucurella. I mean, David Luiz, he had the same sort of haircut. He was the sort of guy he was a bit of a joker apparently around the dressing room. But I don't know. Cucurella, I don't know. Whenever I see it, when they pan to him on the bench, I just see he just seems to be miserable. I just don't think he wants to be there. I don't know. I just think if he doesn't want to be there, then fine, no problem. He hasn't played very well, so no problem.
Yeah, but I think any footballer on the bench, you wouldn't see him smiling and laughing unless, you know, we're winning 4-0 and about
Trevor Chalobah. This is interesting, right? When we scored the second goal against Liverpool, the one that got VAR'd off, Chilwell, when he went around the goalkeeper. If you watch it, they pan to the bench. Chalobah was going like this, and Mudryk and Cucurella were literally just sitting there like, you know, like statues, you know, with no emotion. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. I don't know. Probably I am.
I think there's elements of that you could be reading correctly, and then there's elements that you might not be reading correctly, because, you know, with VAR now, I think a lot of the younger players, they've kind of grown up with VAR, so they know, okay, I can't lose my shit too soon because I'm going to look foolish. Look at Richarlison getting booked. He's got more yellow cards for taking his top off for disallowed goals than he does have goals. Do you know what I mean? So I think maybe there might be an element of that. I think Cucurella, I think we touched upon it in the podcast last season. You know, apparently he went through quite a turbulent time in his home life, which didn't help his kind of knock-on effect for football. And it does affect, you know, we have to remember this is a job for them.
Agree.
Ideally,
it's a job,
it is a job for them. You know, when we go through tough times when we're at home, you know, we have tough times at work as well. It has that knock-on effect. You know, obviously it is our dream job, so we're going to be like, you know, you should be playing for the badge and all that stuff like that. So maybe a change of scenery could be beneficial for him. And, you know, I haven't completely ruled out Cucurella. I don't think he's that type of player in the same ilk as, like, in terms of detrimental to the dressing room like Ziyech or Romelu Lukaku, that type of. I don't see it like that. I think he is liked by the players that are there. I just think he's just gone through a tough time, and I think hopefully it might reignite some form for him. I mean, let's move across to some of the other news. So another news here is prior to this, it looking like that Trevor Chalobah might, after weeks upon weeks and weeks of rumours potentially going to be leaving to Inter Milan, it's looking like that Thomas Tuchel, former Chelsea manager, has gone in for Trevor Chalobah. I think, do you know what? We've discussed this with Chalobah a lot, is where does he fit? And we don't want to lose him, but the chances are of the centre-backs we have, he's the most likely to leave. I think, if I want to look at this objectively now, I think that is an absolutely great move for Trevor Chalobah at this stage of his career. I don't know if you guys disagree with me, but I think if we're going to lose him to somebody, it's a good team for him to go to. I'd rather him move across abroad to another club than go to another Premier League team and potentially bite us in the bum. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, it's great for him, but I just feel as though we just seem to be flogging these Cobham boys one after another this summer, and they're yes, okay, we can look at this as one case, but in terms of the overall summer, we've lost Mount. We're talking about losing Gallagher. There's a lot of the Cobham lads, a lot of the original Cobham lads who seem to be going, and that's got long term. It took Abramovich years to build up Cobham, to build it up to where it was, and it's only now because of course they were kids, these lads, when they came through. It's only now that we actually reap the rewards, and then we're just throwing them away again. It just doesn't make much sense to me. That's the only concern for him personally. Yes, it's a great move, no problem with that.
Tim, do you think that we look at the? I don't. With the Cobham stuff, I think we all agree that we don't want to lose the players that have gone through the academy. It gives the players in the academy now somebody to look forward to. Say, yeah, I can break into the first team. But there's very few teams that you could probably consider an absolutely great move, and I think this would be a fantastic move for Trevor Chalobah. Is it something that where does he fit? This is the thing. We've got 4 centre backs. He's probably 5th choice centre back now, maybe 3rd choice right back. Where does he fit?
Well, that's it. I think he's at an age, 24 now, around
24,
that
age.
Yeah. He probably needs to play, but at the same time, does he get into the Bayern starting 11? I'm not sure. He's got Upamecano and De Ligt to displace, which I don't think he'll do any of those either. But clearly, Thomas Tuchel wants him as a squad player, and so if he wants to move, he can move. And to touch upon us getting rid of Cobham players, well, we've kind of created this mess ourselves. We need to make profit from all the players we're buying. So
yeah,
the instant place we look at is Cobham. Those players cost us nothing to come through our academy and all that. Obviously, those costs don't really go down for first team transfers. Bringing them up from a youth age to now. So selling them is the viable thing to do. But all I worry about is how many more years can we sustain this of just selling our academy players before the best ones decide, well, I'm not even going to give you the time of day anymore. I'm going to leave them when I'm 16 and 18. And it really sort of also harps on the importance of us to get other forms of revenue and actually competing as a team, because that's where I think the owners are banking on us to be a self-sustaining club. That us being in the top 4 Champions League, gaining sponsorships, maybe getting a new stadium, and all that is where the profits and the rewards are going to come from. Not selling every academy player you have to buy the next shiny toy. I mean, how many young players have we signed this summer? Too many. Like most of them, some of them even out on loan, and some of them they won't get any minutes for our team. So how do you develop? How do you bring that transfer value up if they're getting no minutes? Because we have no Europe when we're out of most competitions. So this season is sort of really important for players like that to get more game time and actually be valuable to us, I suppose. So yeah. In a nutshell, I think Chalobah to Bayern, I think it's more down to him if he just wants a change of scenery, but I don't see him starting for Bayern at all.
No, I can't see him starting for Bayern. I think, Dale makes a valid point here. He might get into Bayern at right back if Pavard leaves. He hasn't already. I think Pavard is rumoured to be joining Inter Milan. He's got, Mateus de Ligt ahead of him, Dale Upamecano, and he's got Kim Min-jae as well, signed from Napoli. So there's another, he's going to be fourth in the rung potentially. If he's playing 3 at the back and you've got those 3 centre backs, he might be the next in line to get in. If there's any injuries, he might get in then. But it would be a shame to lose a player of Trevor Chalobah's quality.
Can I just back in there as well? Do you think the plan all along with when Todd Bowley and co took over, was it a year ago roughly? Was it their plan all along to sell these players? I don't think it was. This is the whole point. It is a mistake that they've made, that we've been backed into a corner where we've had to sell. The likes of Chalobah, and Mount is another one. Although yes, okay, we can look at him at Man United and laugh and whatever else, but ultimately he was probably in the plan. For us this year, I don't think it was planned, all this, and I think it's kind of a backs to the wall thing. And the other thing that I want to mention is that there is a limit to how many of these players are around. We've kind of now exhausted. There's only a couple now that are left: Chalobah, maybe Gallagher, and Maatsen. These are probably the 3 that I would. And Cole, okay, those
James.
are probably the 4. Okay, and
Brozier.
James.
And Brozier.
All right, ha. All right, whatever. Yeah. But the point I'm trying to, but you can't, okay, well, whatever. We've sold half of them and we've got half left. But the point I'm trying to make is half of them are going to get sold anyway. It doesn't matter, whatever happens. If we win the Champions League next year, they're still going to get sold because someone better will sign someone better and they'll just get sold naturally. But you see what I'm trying to say? We've been backed into a corner here, a little bit.
Take that aside, but do you not think that just kind of happens as a standard at any club, really? Like if you were if you're successful at any, like you look at player, maybe to a lesser extent Real Madrid buy all their players in. They don't really develop internal talent. I think the last internal talent was Vinny Jr. They bought him in, so he wasn't developed internally. So maybe it's just a different model that we're moving towards. It's definitely interesting, Tem. Sorry.
But if you are that successful, that's when you can do that. We have not. This is what I'm saying. We are like the Poundland Madrid in that sense. We buy everyone, or Poundland Man City. But now we always have been the Poundland Madrid for like the last 20 years. If you think about it, we bought everyone because there was no FFP. We could sign anyone. We didn't give a damn about our academy. We just got rid of them because they would not get any chance under any new manager. It was only really until maybe Ancelotti we saw McEachran even come through. Then we and even he got sold. He dropped down, and as soon as Ancelotti left, and then you saw what Loftus-Cheek, Christensen. There was
Abraham. There was that.
And then Lampard, where he was kind of forced to actually play them. So. And even now, you see it now where we're sort of in the middle of that, of going back to what we used to be, where we're just buying and buying and buying and buying. But the adverse effect, like Charlie mentioned, is I think when we got those sporting directors in probably about October, we maybe had a review of what we have and what the strategy was going forward. And it would make sense along with the Mason Mount stuff where we had verbally agreed something, and then we thought, you know what? We're maybe going to spend more money in the market, and for that to recoup it, we're going to need to get rid of some of these players. And maybe Mount was one of those. He was sort of isolated out to be like, okay, this guy's got a good transfer value. Maybe his performances haven't been enough, or statistically, whatever way they were looking at him, thinking, okay, we can still recoup a lot of money from him. He'd maybe not be the best player for us moving forward. So now is the time to maybe phase him out of the team, and it would make sense because even Lampard didn't really play Mount, and Graham Potter, that second half of the season, we barely saw Mount playing a lot of minutes or being sort of integrated in starting games. So maybe it was a strategy from above to sort of phase him out the team and just phase him out the club slowly, and maybe phase a lot of these players out just to make profit on what we do have and bring in a lot of new talent in. So like I say, in the long-term future, we'll see how this affects us negatively. But it really is sort of a risk of we need to win now to make this money back. We really need to win now.
I've said that all
Yeah.
along. That this season is a pivotal season for the club. We've got to. There has to be some form of success. I don't know what that means. And I don't know how that looks, but there has to be some sort of success because we've risked it all essentially.
Yeah.
I think minimum is Champions League, irrespective of cups
I don't
League.
see it. I can't, at the moment. I don't see it, and so if we have to be realistic about it, what is it? I would say 6. I would say 6 and above. Realistically, Europe is basically what I would say.
I think it's Champions League now, so I say 5th or above.
I see Champions League. I said at the start of the season, I think we will get it. We don't have the distraction of Europe. Other clubs do have that. You look at clubs like Aston Villa; they are flying at the moment. They will, but once Europe kind of happens, they're going to need to rotate their squad more. They might drop points. They're not used to that kind of back and forth thing. Same for clubs like Newcastle as well. Eddie Howe, fantastic manager, inexperienced, and playing twice a week. So you might see some of those clubs drop points in and around us. I think we have to be kind of wary of clubs like Liverpool. They're very, very used to it, but me personally, I think top 5 is very attainable. I just want to quickly throw back to the Chelsea AFC Wimbledon preview. Wednesday, 7:45 kickoff. Very, very quickly, chaps. Charlie, score?
4-0.
Tem?
To Wimbledon. No, to Chelsea.
I'm going to go for a 3-1.
3-1. I think it's going to be a very workman-like 2-0 performance. I think we're going to get through, but it's going to be quite a dull game. Let's look forward to the weekend as well. Chelsea play host to Nottingham Forest at the weekend also. I think the key thing in this game is absolutely keeping somebody on Taiwo Awoniyi as much as possible and not letting him out of his sight, because he makes a difference. He is a fantastic player, and I think he makes a big difference for teams. We need to learn from the mistake of Mikel Artonio, just holding the ball up, winning those cheap fouls, bodying players off the ball, what could bring people into play. How are we feeling about this game prior to this weekend? Like, I'm conscious of time, but Charlie, do you feel that this is a game? I think it's another must-win game. I think we do need to win it, and I think if we do win this game, it's a statement game as well. I genuinely do think that's okay. If we've beaten Luton, admittedly it's Luton. We beat Wimbledon, admittedly it is Wimbledon. Then we beat Nottingham Forest as well. That's a run of 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this game? Do you think it's something that are you feeling confident?
I am, but at the same time, they're no mugs. These guys. I mean, they drew we drew at the City Ground last year, didn't we? On New Year's Day, from what I remember. At home, we narrowly beat them, as far as I can remember. Did we beat them? I think we did. Narrowly at home. I mean, it was a bit of a blur last season. We seem to lose most games at home, but I think we won 2-1 from my memory. I think Sterling scored a goal, if my memory serves me right. The point I'm trying to make, though, is any team in the Premier League is a good team.
We drew them both.
We drew them. Okay, so and Forest, they did okay at Old Trafford, didn't they, last week? So they're not scared to come out now. They've had a fairly good start to the season. They nearly they gave Arsenal a good run for their money, didn't they, away from home as well? Was that the first game in? So they're no mugs. I'm confident, but at the same time, I think it's one of those where I think it'll be a tight game. But let's hope that we actually learn something and push on.
Tem, how are your confidence level going into the game at the weekend?
Say a 5 out of 10. I'm always wary of every opponent. You know me. I think this is more of a test than Luton. I do see it being a 2-1, but I just want to see us score goals and continue that attacking threat. I was looking at our numbers. I think it was like seven. I don't know. It wasn't double digits in our last game, so I want to see that number keep hitting double digits in terms of shots and shots on target. I think it's really important that we really do get XG up and just keep just attack that goal. That, you saw that Chilwell when he passed it, when he was through on goal, stuff like that needs to stop. Just shoot whenever you're on site and make sure the ball's in the back of the net. So, yeah, for me, 2-1, I think, but I'm not convinced we'll 100% win or that we are back as per se. I think we still have more challenging games to come up against. I don't know what you feel like, Tom.
I think we will. I think we will win the game. I think we will concede. I think Owaniwi is a fantastic player. If I'm pronouncing that right, I'm probably pronouncing it terribly, so I do apologise if I'm offending anybody. But I think he's a great player. I think it's very key. If we can lock him down, I think we're in a chance for potentially winning the game. Again, I think it'll be another workman-like victory. If we do, it'll be 1-0, 2-0, something along those lines. But Forest, they're a dangerous team. They got pace on the wings, and if Chilwell's bombing forward, not tracking back, and insistent they're going to be a left winger, I think they can leave us very, very open on that left side. To be interesting to see. I think it would be a very workman-like, maybe 2-0, 2-1, something along those lines. Charlie, how are you feeling? What do you reckon the score's going to be?
Yeah, I think it'll be closer than everyone thinks, but I think 2-1, something like that. It'll be 1 goal or 2 goal difference. I don't think it'll be as easy as Luton. Let's put it that way. That's the way I can see it going.
Tremendous. Going to finish this podcast on very, very fantastic news. It's looking like Romelu Lukaku closed in on Roma, loan move. He's on his way out the door. Tremendous stuff. We could have bought Haaland, but we went with Lukaku instead. And as part of the terms of that contract, of that loan deal as well, it's looking like there's a £37 million release clause been inserted into his contract going forward as well. So it means if any club wants to buy Lukaku, they've got to pay £37 million. So I really, 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 really hope he does fantastically well at Roma. I really hope Jose Mourinho gets the best out of him. I hope he wins Serie A. I think it'd be very, very fantastic for him, and I wish him all the very best. I think Charlie and Temba, both of you can join me in wishing Romelu Lukaku the best of times at Roma. But that does mean, hang on, that means Tammy Abraham's going to get dropped out the side. Oh no!
Linking up, they're going to link up together. And you know what the worst thing is? They'll probably end up playing us in the Conference League next season or something, and scoring a hat trick each and winning 6-0.
Three Chelsea men back. I think one of them will definitely get booed, and the other two lauded, of course. But brilliant move for him, Lukaku. He thought he was one of the best strikers in the world, and he's ended up at Roma somehow. We
know how. It's his attitude. That's how he's got him there.
Ego too big for his boots, and again, like I say, I don't understand where this ego comes in. I don't know how he ranked himself amongst the world's best, but that's what he gets at the end of the day. If he was showing affection to every club he's ever been to, kissing the badge after 2 games wherever he's been to, well, at the end of the day, no club really wants him anymore. So that's why he gets
more for him. Well, chaps are probably just going to round this one up. Bring Tammy Abraham home is what I say. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this week. We've been live on YouTube and on TKS TV. Make sure you do subscribe. We're trying to get 100 subscribers. How much are we on? Like 95-ish or something like that? Be fantastic if we can get to 100. So if you have liked what you've seen this week, if you have dropped in on us, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. We are live every Monday at 9:30. Join us next week where we will review the AFC Wimbledon game. We will also review the Forest game as well at the weekend, and we'll preview Chelsea versus I can't remember, somebody next week after that. Anyway, chaps, thank you very much. We'll be back next week at 9:30 p.m. Bournemouth away, up the Chelsea.
All right, peace.